Hi guys. Welcome back to the Mighty Miss Malone. Today we're going to read chapter 3, The Pie Lady's Revenge. We stepped onto the porch. Jimmy grabbed my arm before I could knock. This was my fault, Deza. There ain't no shame or blame in your game. Give me the 10. I rolled my eyes. This was more of Jimmy's jazz musician talk. So he's trying to act cool. Besides, he said, what if she comes out shooting? He knocked. A very pretty, tall, and distinctive-looking woman with a glorious mane of pulled-back silver and black hair and tiny glasses on her nose opened the door. May I help you? Excuse me, ma'am. My name is Jimmy Malone, and it was me who took your pie. The woman looked over her glasses and put her hand on her hip. Oh, really? Yes, ma'am. I come to apologize, give you your 10 back, and see what I gotta do to make it up to you. She came out on the porch. She was dressed like a rich lady in a very nice blue dress and a lovely pair of brown sandals. What do you propose? Jimmy said, I can do all kinds of odd jobs until you tell me to stop, ma'am. The woman looked at me. You're his big sister? Oh, boy. No, ma'am. Jimmy's my older brother. I'm kind of big for my age. She said, you two ate that whole pie all by yourselves? Jimmy said, no, ma'am. She didn't have nothing to do with it. A rotten mutt ate half of the pie, and I was going to bring the other half back, but Deza told me giving you a pie that a dog had been licking on wasn't right, so we gave it to some folks in the park who were down on their luck. Oh, I see. You steal from the rich and you give to the poor. Jimmy thought for a second. Then he smiled. Yeah, that's what I did. I took from the rich and gave to the poor. He said it like he was very humble and proud at the same time. Only problem with your epiphany is I don't believe there's a rich person within 10 miles of here. All right, Robin Hood, how much did you eat? I'd have to look epiphany up in the dictionary later. Jimmy said, I just ate the scraps I cut off that the dog didn't finish. Stuck. She said, how was it? Jimmy said, ma'am, the parts I ate had some dog slob on them and were a little crunchy from the dirt, but it was still the best thing I ever ate. She looked at me. Did you eat any? Well, ma'am, Mother tells us it's a grand and generous gesture when someone offers you food, and it's the height of rudeness to turn them down. The lady in the park handed me some, so I ate one slice of apple. Well, what did you think? It was heavenly. She pointed at Jimmy. Robin Hood, sit on the top of that step. Miss Malone, come inside with me. Jimmy sat, and I said, ma'am, we're not allowed to go into strangers' houses. That's smart. You guys learned that in Dare. She smiled. Good girl. Make sure the thief doesn't take it on the lamb. I'll be right back. I pulled up all the sarcasm I had. Thanks a bunch, Jimmy. I don't know if I'll ever speak to you again. You better never steal another thing in your life. I know. The woman came back with a tray and 2 glasses brimming with milk and 2 pieces of apple pie. She set it on the table between 2 porch chairs. What was your name again, young lady? Deza. Deza Malone, ma'am. My name is Dr. Bracy. Please come join me for some pie, and I know you won't turn me down. I'm making the sort of grand gesture which, as your mother has taught you, is rude to refuse. Doctor? Maybe she could tell us why Jimmy had stopped growing 3 years ago. Thank you very much, Dr. Bracy. I sat, and she handed me a paper napkin and a fork. My feet dangled in the chair, but I crossed my ankles and spread the napkin on my lap. She said, "Why do I suspect you do well in school, Deza?" "I don't know, ma'am, but I really do." "How about pretty boy Floyd over there?" "He works very hard." She knew I was exaggerating. "Really? Look what he left me." She passed me a folded piece of paper. The note read, "Do not call the police. I promise to bring the tin back. Here's 8 cents." No punctuation, no word over 4 letters spelled correctly, and a run-on sentence. Jimmy's work for sure. He'd written his name at the end of the note, but scratched it out with one measly line. At least he hadn't lied about paying her, but 8 cents? I sighed and handed Dr. Bracy the note. She gave me a piece of pie and said to Jimmy, "You look strong. Do you know how to chop wood?" "Sure I do, ma'am." "Fine. First, even though you left me 8 cents, you stole my pie. Do you agree?" "Yes, ma'am." "Now tell me where you got 8 cents. Did you steal that too?" "I would never take Noah's money. I worked all day cleaning out boxcars at the yard." "And they paid you 8 cents?" Jimmy's eyes cut to the side. "Really, they gave me a dime, ma'am, but on my way home I saw a starving old blind lady crying in a wheelchair and I gave her 2 cents of it." I was mortified. Dr. Bracy laughed and picked up the other piece of pie. "Miss Malone, I was thinking about giving him this piece of pie, but now I'll enjoy it myself. It must be quite the experience living with this one." She asked Jimmy, "Has school finished this year?" "We've only got 2 more days." "So here's what you're going to do, Mr. Malone. I've got a field in the back that needs clearing, and there's some wood that needs chopping and stacking. Once you're done with that, I've got something else in mind. Deza, do you think it would do any good for your brother to come here every night and work on his spelling and grammar?" It was Jimmy's turn to look mortified. We had tried to help Jimmy, but nothing seemed to stick. Mother says that different people are good at different things, and while being good at schooling is important, being a good singer is very important too. I like that. "Not really, but that is a kind thing to say to someone who's a good singer." "You can tutor him only if you want to torture him, ma'am." "Fine, we'll see how he does around here. Jimmy, I'll expect to see you at 8 o'clock sharp Saturday morning." While Jimmy sat on the top step and pouted, Dr. Bracy and me ate our pie and chatted. She was a most delightful conversationalist. I told her all about my essay and how Clarice Ann Johnson and me were going to read every book in the Gary Public Library. She told me how she wasn't the kind of doctor who worked on sick people, but was the kind who had gone to college for 100 years to study about books and writing. Me and Jimmy both jumped when a bell rang inside of her house. "You've got a telephone right inside your house?" She smiled. "Excuse me for a moment." When she came back, I hopped out of my chair. "Thank you very much for the pie, Dr. Bracy. Our father gave us 45 minutes to return the dish, and we have to get going." We waved as she started piling things on the tray. We were about half a block away when I heard, "Deza, can you come here for a moment?" I ran back. "I can't seem to find your napkin, Miss Malone." I felt my face get hot. I looked at my shoes. She said, "I don't mind as long as you give whatever is left of your pie to Clarice and not to Jimmy. We can't encourage that kind of behavior, can we?" "No, ma'am. I'm sorry." "Deza, you're a good girl. Next time, think things through. Alliteration. Think things through. Going to school for 100 years must be really worth it." When I got home, I asked Mother how to spell epiphany, then looked it up in the dictionary. This is what it said: "Sudden intuitive perception of or insight into the reality or essential meaning of something, usually initiated by some simple, commonplace occurrence or experience. That's the only bad thing about dictionaries. You start by looking at one word and you have to look up 7 others to understand the definition of the first one. I lugged the dictionary to Mother and Father. They were sitting at the kitchen table. I plopped it down. "Translate this, please." Father pulled the dictionary to him. "What's the word?" "Epiphany." He didn't even look. He closed the book and said, "Think of a light going on. An epiphany is being surrounded by darkness and bumping around." Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. Something that happens or is said that causes a light to be switched on and everything becomes clear. It's when you suddenly understand something, the moment you really get it. So that was what Dr. Bracy meant. She'd said something about Robin Hood, and it was like a light came on for Jimmy. A dim light, but that's probably the best you could expect from a pie thief. That was Chapter 3. The Pie Maker's Revenge, Chapter 4 tomorrow. Ooh, stabbed in the back. The title of these chapters just keep getting more and more suspenseful. All right, let's see what Chapter 3 has in store for us as far as reading comprehension questions go. And you can find a copy for yourself in the link below this video. Chapter 3. On page 23, now you can't see what page because you don't have the book in front of you, but you can rewind through this video to find the quote, "down on their luck." Number 1 wants to know, what does down on their luck mean? Does it mean that they were sad, they were poor, they laughed a lot, or they were rich? Number 2, what word does Deza use to describe the taste of the pie? Heavenly, delicious, awesome, or wonderful? Ooh, lots of adjectives there that are similar in meaning, so make sure that you go back and you listen carefully to hear how Deza described that pie. What is the pie lady's name? Is it Mrs. Needham, Dr. Brookard, Dr. Bracy, or Mrs. Lawson? How much money did Jimmy leave in return for taking the pie? 8 cents, 10 cents, or $1.15? Number 5, what does Dr. Bracy suggest Jimmy do to make up for taking her pie? Work for her and let her tutor him, wash all of her clothes, walk her dog, be her personal musician. Number 6, what does Deza forget to give back to Dr. Bracy when she leaves? Her pie tin, the napkin, a cup, or nothing? 7 is an extended response question. Make sure you have capitals. You're organizing your thoughts. You have punctuation. Your sentence makes sense. How do Deza's parents explain the word epiphany to Deza? It's a great question. All right, so today we've read Chapter 3. You can find Chapters 2 and 1 either in the links on GroupMe or email or in my YouTube channel, Mrs. Keller Second. And we will read Chapter 4 tomorrow and go over all the comprehension questions from this week on Friday. I'm looking forward to our Zoom video on Friday. That is how I will be doing some of our collaborative lessons and classwork going forward after spring break. So I really hope you can tune in, and I hope you have a fantastic day. I hope you enjoyed that recipe, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.